Well, thank you for inviting me to make some brief remarks at the end of this important conference on the essential topics of migration and education in our Maltese islands. I would also like to thank Pro-Rector Dr. Carmen Samut and her Office for Student and Staff Affairs and Outreach, the Faculty for Social Wellbeing, the Faculty of Education and the Ministry for Education and Employment, who, as I am informed, all have contributed to the facilitation of this constructive conference. I must commend you, Dr. Samut, because I know of your endeavors, for this excellent initiative to bring together so many strategic stakeholders to speak about their efforts and share their experiences, while also exploring the grey areas in our educational system. This analytical approach, together with the necessary determination, will definitely improve essential access to education for refugees and migrants in the Maltese Islands. I am informed that this conference has highlighted the urgent need to identify new strategies to ensure the full and equitable inclusion of all the people who call our Maltese Islands their home. Education is key to inclusion. Education is essential to the much called for integration. Education is the way forward to address unnecessary social tensions. We must ensure that migrants are welcomed into our education system, especially children and young people who experience additional vulnerability and precarity due to their status as migrants, asylum seekers, or refugees. Education embraces all the necessary dynamics to reach out and make all people aware of the enrichment that diversity can bring to our communities and society. I believe that now is the time for us to step up our efforts and to ensure a more active contribution towards the much-needed change of some people's perspectives. We must move together towards the acknowledgement and appreciation of our island's diversity. Our educational system must not only be truly accessible and inclusive, but also it must instill a sense of pride as a society as we consciously choose to value and to celebrate the richness of our diversity. I have first-hand experience gained during my many visits to schools and other institutions around our islands that the dynamic can change in profoundly positive ways when our schools become safe spaces of respect and of the celebration of diversity. It is essential for us to prepare our children and young people to appreciate diversity. If we do not suitably prepare our children and young people to be active and conscious members of a multicultural society, then we shall be losing out on the full enrichment of our democracy. Let me share this very personal experience with you. My daughter read for her master's degree at a foreign university in England, and she applied for university accommodation. And on her first day moving into this apartment that she had to share with 3 other girls, 4 in all, she phoned me up after some time and told me, "Ma, I think they think that Malta is in Africa, because I've been matched with 2 Nigerian girls and 1 Ghanaian. My daughter is not racist, has no prejudice, but if I had raised my daughter in a way with incorrect perspectives of things, she wouldn't even have started her degree. She would have come home immediately." And I'm relating this experience because my daughter felt enriched with this opportunity of living with 3 girls coming from different cultures. Even they, Ghanaians and Nigerians, they come from a different culture. It's not because they are in Africa, they come from the same culture. She came back and she was reading her degree in a very huge university, a great deal, thousands of foreign students. She came back not just having her qualifications, academic qualifications, but she relates how enriched she is and how much she can. She attended like more than one course, not just for her master's degree. She came back with a lot of knowledge. But, and I am sharing this with you, because we need to give practical examples that if we do not prepare our children and young people in the correct way, they will not have enough experiences. They will really, they will become afraid and simply be short-sighted. So I decided to share this experience with you, and I'll have another experience later on which I would like to share. These are first-hand experiences. When our communities of learning become inclusive, when they become safe spaces for dialogue and discussion, the whole of our Maltese society matures as it will be enriched. In order to make this enrichment a reality, we need to build powerful synergies among our authorities, our academics, and our civil society activists, as you have been doing during these 2 days. Together, we need to understand what active inclusion and proper integration mean in a 21st century democracy. One thing which most certainly inclusion and integration are not is the flawed ideology of assimilation. Integration and inclusion definitely are not assimilation. It is of utmost importance that we must never expect others to be stripped of their own cultural heritage and identity. A person's identity is a potential source of strength and empowerment, which will be of benefit to our communities and society as a whole. We must focus on strategies for inclusion, which prioritize a positive peace approach. We must ensure that we stand in respect and solidarity with all the diverse groups who today make up the social fabric of our Maltese islands. I am convinced that this vital conversation that has already begun on a national level about the importance of inclusion should be adopted as an ongoing process for the continuous evaluation, appraisal, and where necessary, change. We must keep working not only within our schools, but also on a broader social strategy for the empowerment of our whole society. In this context, I see the urgent need for support at all levels of engagement, including services for psychosocial care and multicultural education. Again, I would like to share the experience from an initiative which the President's Trust has taken in collaboration with the Blossom Foundation and with the St. Paul's Bay Primary School, whereby we are providing comprehensive and effective psychosocial support to students in this multicultural school. However, I must stress that multiculturalism is not only limited to certain schools. I have been to schools in Melleha, St. Julian's and Slema, just to mention a few, where a sudden cultural change has practically taken place overnight. These and other schools in Malta need support. Support not only addressed to both migrant and Maltese children, but also opportunities of training for our educational professionals and their complementary staff. And this I want to stress, because in some schools, they were taken so much by surprise. It was such a rapid transformation that the teachers were overwhelmed. And even teachers need support, because this is all new. They're not trained. So we need to also think of supporting teachers with training. So there is no time to be lost, because the multiculturalism of our islands is a reality now. Therefore, our response must be equally realistic. Our response must be rooted in a commitment to the dignity of each individual and every community, who together make up the vibrancy of our contemporary society. Education is fundamental when it comes to creating the necessary pathways for the successful inclusion of migrants and refugees into the life of our islands. This does not only apply to school children, but also to the young people and adults who come to Malta with their own skills and abilities. We cannot afford to ignore their potential and the specific contributions that they can make to our workforce. And let me share another personal experience. I had to do some tile laying at home, so I got somebody I know to find somebody for me. And I decided to go, and I found this guy, Mohammed, from Syria. He does beautiful work, but then I got to know that his ability is more than just tile laying. He's an accountant by profession. But in this country, he ended up tile laying. And I visit the Careers Week at the university, and I'm always so surprised. I've been following Careers Week, I don't know for how many years. I remember all the auditors' firms and accountants all there like 4 or 5 years ago, trying to sort of engage with third-year students in the field. And now you go and they try to engage with first-year students. They've just been for a couple of months at university. So we have a skills gap in this country, and we're losing somebody who is qualified. We can try to organize some sort of courses or whatever for people to conform to our standards, and maybe they have better standards than us. We cannot presume that we have the best standards either. But there must be somewhere that such people who don't lose out on their abilities and qualifications. For this reason, our authorities must find innovative and efficient ways of regularizing the qualifications and training which many migrants and refugees bring with them. In so doing, we shall ensure that the economy is enriched at various skills levels. Moreover, I believe that we must continuously appraise and ask ourselves some important questions, and I think it has to be a continuous way. Like, where are the gray areas in our education system? It shouldn't be only for this conference. It should be an ongoing question. Are there any gray areas? Where are the gray areas in our education? And how can our educational system at all levels be made more effective, inclusive, and relevant in real time? Effective inclusion and respectful integration through education will be powerful evidence of our commitment to safeguarding universal human rights and to upholding the fundamental freedoms for all of humanity. I would also like to mention on this occasion one very powerful initiative recently launched together with my foundation, which is seeking to address these grey areas in educational and vocational and tertiary education for migrants and refugees. Last year, an NGO called Spark 15, and I think there are, yes, I haven't seen it for quite some time. You shouldn't have stayed away so long. Last year, that's why I didn't recognize you. Last year, an NGO, Spark 15 are here. I hope that you have had the opportunity to present yourselves and say what you are doing, because you've already taken up quite a number of initiatives, which I also followed. But I don't know if you've quoted it. I want to quote this quote from their manifesto of Spark 15, because it is quite telling. Spark 15 aims to help refugee and young migrants to attain full integration within the Maltese communities by helping them to be active participants, encouraging diversity, and promoting a society that is more inclusive and accepting of others. This is end quote from their manifesto. Furthermore, Spark 15, now they're also on the migrant-led NGO platform within my foundation, and they also have focused most of their attention on access to education. And I'm pleased that the University of Malta has taken up quite a number of the recommendations and suggestions, but definitely there needs to be much more input so that we can ensure that tertiary education is completely accessible without unnecessary challenges for these young people. I believe that it is essential the essential celebration of diversity in all areas of life, which makes the inclusive education of migrants and refugees with our community a priority area. It is an area which we cannot afford to ignore. Let us therefore do more to ensure that each and every person, regardless of their country of origin, who call our islands their home, has access to the same educational opportunities. Let us ensure that each and every person has the same opportunity to make a valuable and respected contribution to the sustainable prosperity and the holistic well-being of the Maltese Islands. Thank you.